Welcome back to Everything We Know. There's a new poll out of Texas conducted by the University of Texas at Austin that will shed some light on what's going to happen in the 2022 midterm elections. This is a race that we've been following very closely on Everything We Know. You can go back and find previous videos. Some of the links of those will be in the description of this one. But for now, let's dive right in. This was a poll conducted June 16th through 24th of this year amongst 1,200 registered voters in the state of Texas. And Greg Abbott, the two-term incumbent running for his third term, is the Republican, going up against Beto O'Rourke, the former congressman, former candidate for Senate against Ted Cruz in 2018, and former presidential candidate in 2020. Right now, Greg Abbott has a 45-39 lead. That's a 6-point lead. It's been pretty consistent over these last few polls. Libertarian Mark Tippett's down there at about 2%. Lieutenant governor is a much lower profile race. Republican Dan Patrick is in a rematch with Democratic challenger Mike Collier. That's at 38% to 26%. Interestingly, there's 11% of these Texas voters preferring Libertarian Shanna Steele, and then 31% saying someone else or undecided. Now, what's interesting is at this point during the campaign, libertarians actually poll pretty highly. They'll poll, in the double digits in Texas, and the reason for that is it is not a very high-profile race. In fact, Mike Collier didn't even debate Michelle Beckley in the primaries. So there hasn't been a whole lot of pomp and circumstance surrounding the lieutenant governor's race. And for that reason, you're probably going to see a pretty comfortable win for Dan Patrick, probably on the order of 6 to 8 points, where Greg Abbott will probably be in the 4 to 6 range. At least that's what we're projecting right now. Attorney General Ken Paxton, they misspelled Paxton here in the article, but Attorney General Ken Paxton, who survived a runoff with Texas Land Commissioner George P. Bush, is leading 37% to 29% over Rochelle Garza, who also went to a runoff. On the generic congressional ballot, Democrats lead Republicans lead Democrats in Texas 46 to 41. And it's similar for the Texas legislature, which tells me that in general, those who prefer Republicans are going to go Greg Abbott. Those who prefer Democrats are going to go Beto O'Rourke. Pretty similar numbers, 46-41 and 45-39. When we look at some other leaders in the state of Texas, particularly Senator John Cornyn, who was, as you might remember in one of our previous videos, linked down in the description, he was a big supporter of the Senate gun bill, and was perhaps the reason why it got passed, why we were able to get some Republicans on board with that as well as some Democrats. According to recent polling, his disapproval numbers have jumped up from 39% up to 50%. He's going to face some tough challenge come 2024 when he's up for re-election. And I anticipate that he might just retire. Now, a few other things. They've asked some very complicated questions moving downward on the abortion issue. In general, 37% of voters supported the state's trigger law banning abortions in Texas. 24% said they strongly supported it, and 54% total opposed it. And a small sliver of Texans, approximately 1/6, agree that abortion should never be permitted. So they built out this matrix here, and you get most support when the woman's health is seriously endangered. That's 82%. When you look at serious birth defects, it's like 69% support. And then low-income families at 57%. And yeah, just in general, Texans support at least some instance of abortion. Not very high support once you get beyond 12 weeks. As you can see here, it drops down into the single digits very, very quickly. And then at any time during the pregnancy, remains pretty much a quarter or less unless the woman's health is seriously endangered. So pretty nuanced in Texas, these views on abortion rights. Um, and then birth control at 88%. It's interesting to be asking, but comes out of Justice Clarence Thomas's concurring opinion in Dobbs, perhaps calling that into question. But the vast majority, almost unanimously in Texas, say that there should be access to birth control. Um, Under gun policy, 34% of Texans say that the U.S. would be safer with more guns. 43% say they would be less safe with more guns. A huge contingent of people who don't know or don't think it will have any impact. 52% of Texans say that gun laws should be more strict, whereas 14% say less strict and 28% say left as they are now. So this is a potential winning issue for Beto O'Rourke, as well as Mike Collier, if he can raise the profile of his candidacy. Especially when you're looking at a partisan breakdown, Democrats, huge, um, huge difference in opinion there. That they want more strict gun laws. Republicans are pretty split on the issue about whether they should be left as they are now at 46%, whether they should be less strict, 21%, or more strict at 28%. And interestingly, independents tend to lean toward more strict or left as they are now versus less strict. And you can see that's pretty clearly divided along partisan lines. Most Texans support background checks on all gun purchases. A slight majority support raising the minimum wage to buy a firearm, 52%. So this is a winning issue for Democrats in Texas if they tout it correctly. However, when they come out in terms of a ban on certain weapons, they receive less support than they do of things like background checks. Let's skip ahead to the election here. Dan Patrick again leading, Ken Paxton again. General outlook on the economy: 68% are saying that the increase in gas prices has had a major impact on household finances. Food, 59%, utilities, 44%, housing and healthcare at 31%, education, much less so. When you look at the direction of the country, 76% of Texas voters say the country is on the wrong track. And in general, the majority of Texans have said for the last several presidents that it's been on the wrong track. However, the direction of Texas, as opposed to the direction of the country, has traditionally been viewed quite favorably in the state of Texas, with the exception being these last couple of years. In fact, 59% of Texans now believe that Texas is on the wrong track. And the Beto O'Rourke campaign has been leaning into this a lot recently. State of democracy: 54% of Texans say that Joe Biden legitimately won the election. 35% say no. And that's divided, as you can see, along partisan lines. 64% of Texans believe that there will be more political violence in the U.S. upcoming. So that is potentially very dangerous. Job approval ratings: Congress, -44. John Cornyn, -26. Joe Biden, -20. Ted Cruz, Ken Paxton, Dan Patrick, Greg Abbott, all sitting around the same percentage. Cornyn, very unliked by Republicans right now. Joe Biden, very unliked by Republicans and independents right now. Congress in general is just unliked by everybody. So we could see some potential backlash against John Cornyn. His seat's going to be very vulnerable in 2024 if this continues. And I don't see Dan Collier being able to edge out Dan Patrick, even with Patrick and Paxton Abbott have negative approval ratings. Sometimes the devil you know is better than the devil you don't, and that's going to be what a lot of independents are going to vote on in the fall. Institutional rankings, military, highly respected in Texas at 61%, police at 52, and then governments kind of fall off from there. 42% local government, 40% state, 19% federal. Immigration border approval ratings, the highest for Greg Abbott. Inflation and prices, not too great. The electrical grid down at 31%. That's been something that the Beto O'Rourke campaign has really been harping on. Gun violence, abortion access, also in the mid 30s. For Joe Biden, inflation prices also down there at 20%. Abortion access even less so than Greg Abbott. Gun violence less so than Greg Abbott. The economy way worse than Greg Abbott. Immigration, border security, nearly half as much approval as Greg Abbott on the issue. So in general, Greg Abbott is running a campaign not against Beto O'Rourke, but against the White House. And we've really been seeing that with some of the border policies that have been enacted in Texas in recent weeks. He doesn't utter Beto's name. He invokes Joe Biden every single time, because rather than comparing himself to Beto and Beto's approval on certain issues, he leads on almost every single issue against the White House. And so all he's got to show is I am better than what the guy in the White House. And if that is the way that he frames it, he's going to win by 5 or 6 points come November. Spending on border security, more than a third of Texans say that Texas is not spending enough on border security. About a quarter say about the right amount. About a quarter say that we're spending too much. Overall, what we can see is that Greg Abbott is likely to win in November. Texans are very nuanced on abortion issues. Dan Patrick likely to win in November, as well as Ken Paxton. All right, so the link to this poll will be down in the description, along with links to some other related videos that I've mentioned so far. Again, thank you so much for watching these videos and listening to our podcast. I'm Matthew Lucci, and this has been Everything We Know.